Hartland Park and Recreational Board meeting for Monday, May 4th to order. Looks like all of us are present, our board members, including Kelly and also Mike G. And first on the agenda is public comments for any of those. And sounds like there is none. So the first up is we have the consideration of a motion to appoint a Park and Recreational Board Chairman for the upcoming year. Duties involve running Park and Recreational Board meetings and being a member of the Joint Architectural and Board Planning Commission. So I will chairman for this coming year.
Well, Tim, who else would do it as well as you? So I with, I'm sure, full support, nominate you.
I'll second that.
There you go.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to nominate myself for the chairman position. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that carried. Next on the agenda is the March 2nd board meeting minutes. Consideration to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on that? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, that carried as well.
Hold on, Tim. I have an abstain. I wasn't there.
Okay, one abstention. Next up is Kelly and a couple of items. So go ahead, Kelly, if you want to explain the item.
All right. We have Jeff Mertens and Kelly Zimmerman. They came to the village to do a fundraiser at Hartland at Nixon Park on August 29th for their Emma Loves Dog Foundation. They are here, Kelly and Jeff and Tammy Mertens, and I'll let them take it from here. You do have the information in your packets. It's key on top. You have your the reservations, the map with how they're going to lay things out for you. Oh. I will
Kelly,
let
go
them
ahead.
take over. Yeah, please do.
Perfect. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
All right. Hi, this is Kelly Zimmerman with the Emma Loves Dogs Foundation. And in your packet, I'm not sure all the details you have in there, but I'll give a general overview of what we're looking to do. We'd like to do a Pause in the Park inaugural Emma Loves Dog walk and park party on August 29th. This year it's a Saturday, and that date is very important to us because Emma's birthday is on August 30th this year, or every year. So we'd like to have this an annual event to celebrate her. For those that aren't aware of who Emma is, I'm guessing that most people do, if not everybody. But Emma Mertens, she lived in Hartland. Tammy and Jeff are her parents. They're on the line here. And she was diagnosed with DIPG in January of last year. And she passed away in November. She basically won the hearts of the world when her story went viral about her love for dogs and people sending her letters of dogs when she would wanted to feel better. And she got thousands and millions of letters and gifts in the mail. And with that, she's done a lot of work when she was here with us to support humane societies, and she had a love for canine dogs as well. And so on her birthday last year, when she was still with us, we started the Emma Loves Dogs Foundation to carry her legacy forward. So this will be the first event that we're doing like this, a dog walk. You guys have it sounds like you guys have the map that we're proposing in Nixon Park. For those that are familiar with the Nixon Park party that the Lake Country Chiefs did last year, it's somewhat, some pieces of it are similar to this. We're looking for the party or the Paws in the Park party to start at 3 o'clock. The dog walk would be at 4 o'clock, and then they would end back by the Fine Arts Building, where we would have entertainment and the beer garden and food trucks for the rest of the evening. We do have enters on board with our plan. They're in full support at the beer garden, so that is set. And I'll pause for questions. Or if Tammy and Jeff, you want to add anything?
No, I think you covered it all right now. If there are questions, we'd love to answer them.
And I will say that staff has met with the Mertens and Mrs. Zimmerman. I believe the PD, DPW, myself, we had a meeting, oh my gosh, like maybe a month ago, 2 months ago, I can't remember. But we talked about the logistics and everything. We talked about placement. We also talked about the walk. At first, the walk was going through downtown, but then now we're looping around the park. And it was noted that on August 29th, the sidewalk sale is going to be held as well. Kelly and Nick Miller, who was the organizer for the sidewalk sale, they talked because they will be sharing the same parking lot at Nixon. Nick's vendors go and park at Nixon, and then around between 2:45 and 3, they get their stuff out, their cars out, and go pack up. And then the Emma Foundation will be coming while the vendors are leaving and stuff. So both parties are familiar with each other.
Okay, so the sidewalk sale that's on the 29th, is that the sidewalk that runs by the Fine Arts Center in front there? That's through the park? Is that?
No, it's on, I think, Pauling by the old.
Yeah,
people.
it's right in front of where Hoggers is, Polly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where the sidewalk sale is.
Yeah, but the vendors just park in Nixon because it's.
That's fine. That's fine. I didn't want all the vendors on that sidewalk with the dogs walking, and that could create some havoc, but.
Yeah. Well, the dogs aren't walking on the sidewalk anymore. We're staying in the park. We're basically walking the perimeter of the park. If you look on your map, there's a green outline. That is where staff recommended to walk.
Is the orange one is the previous route?
The previous, yes.
Okay. 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 As far as the food trucks go, we have a new policy in place where if there's any food trucks that, and you can get as many as you want for this event, but I believe, Kelly, help me out here, is it $75 that they?
I believe it's 75, yes.
Yes.
Okay, that's new this year, so you want to make sure that they want to do that. I don't know how much profit they can make in a couple of hours or whatever to offset that, but
They have to. I'm sorry. Do they have to pay the 75, or can we pay that?
it doesn't matter who it's being paid. It
Okay.
doesn't- yeah, that's. Anybody else? Any other members have any questions? If not, I mean, this is pretty clear cut forward. I mean, it's a great cause, obviously, and we hated to see her go. So I'll entertain a motion from one of the members.
Sure. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the dog walk and park party August 29th, 2020. Kelly Zimmerman, Emma Loves Dog Foundation.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. I do have one comment. If you could keep Kelly or our staff, DPW staff, just if you're adding a band or a DJ or whatever else you're adding, just so that we're aware of what's going to happen. So it's been moved and seconded. Any other comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. We'll stay in
Thank you.
touch.
Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Okay, Kelly, next up, we have pickleball, I believe.
Yes, discussion and possible consideration for the village to build pickleball courts at Nixon Park. We have David Adamski. Did I say that right, David?
Adamski.
Adamski. He approached me, oh man, maybe back in January, February, I can't remember, about possibly putting up permanent pickleball nets, either on the tennis court and maybe in the future installing actual permanent courts. And I will let him take it away.
All right, fair enough. Do you want me to go into presentation mode, or you just want to, how do you want me to do it? It sounds like you've got the presentation there, but you tell me. I can share my screen.
Tim?
Well, I think if you want to, since you have a lot of the points that you're going to cover, if you want to just give us just a quick summary, and then that'll probably lead us into questions.
Okay, so you have the packet, I guess, that we put together, and the net of it is this: what we're asking for is the Park and Rec committee to consider building some permanent pickleball courts. We started with the idea of Nixon Park. That seems to be the most logical place at this point, but Pembroke would also be an option that would certainly be viable. And the thought there is that you've already got, I guess, courts of some form and fashion there. We would just need to modify them a little bit to support pickleball. So if you look at the second slide there, where you see a side-by-side comparison, that's actually Nixon Park. And I wanted to just show you what's happening from I guess a homegrown effort perspective. The interest in pickleball is very, very broad. I can tell you that I'm in a circle of people that play pickleball, and we're frankly moving all over the Hartland area trying to find places to play. And what you see on that particular slide there on the left-hand side, you can see some buckets and some chicken wire that has been rigged up to support some fencing there. On the right-hand side is people bringing their own nets to play. So this is already happening at Nixon. I'll be real honest, what's happening here is the group that is doing this typically goes to Waukesha to play, but Waukesha has shut down their courts because of the COVID-19. So we're just looking for any place to play. Nixon has some lines, and that's what's going on there. So that's, I guess, the now. If you look at slide 3, this is what is going on in Waukesha right now. So this is the future that is the potential in terms of Nixon or Pembroke, which is permanent pickleball courts that are set up for just that use. So just kind of a before and after look at what is today and what is possible down the road. So slide 4 is some points for you to consider. The first one there is just the community organized pickleball is always full. You would probably have better numbers than I don't have access to it, but I can tell you that those organized pickleball activities are always full. They're always waitlisted. I can speak to this firsthand. I've been waitlisted a couple of times trying to get in. So the amount of interest for pickleball in the community is large. I happen to belong to the Wisconsin Athletic Club. I can tell you that they started pickleball. They run courts. They have 3 courts there, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, from 12 to noon. They're always fully occupied. So if you crunch the numbers on that, that's 12 people playing, and there's always people waiting to play as well. Same thing with Tuesday and Thursday. The net of it is this: when the club puts up nets, there's always people there playing and frankly looking to play. So the point I'm trying to make is the numbers are there to support something that's a little bit more permanent in terms of people that are interested to play pickleball. The next point here is just the demographics and the interest in the sport. You may or may not be aware of pickleball, but it's growing extremely fast depending on what source you want to look at. It's one of the fastest growing sports out there, particularly for the 50+ demographic. And the demographics in Hartland is changing. There's a lot of 50+ empty nesters that are living out here these days and looking for activities to participate in. The other point I wanted to make is just in terms of tennis courts, which is what Pembroke and Nixon has today, or at least is set up for. When people want to play tennis, frankly, they're going to Arrowhead to play. I live pretty close to Arrowhead. I see it on a regular basis. That's where people go to play tennis, not Nixon and Pembroke. So Hartland has 0 pickleball courts. We do have lines, but it does require us to bring our own nets. And frankly, what happens is people just go to Waukesha because it's easier. Everything's set up and ready to go there. Just another point, the Legends clubs as well, they are renovating their clubs. They're taking out tennis courts and putting in pickleball courts. Again, kind of trying to justify the point that there's just a lot of interest in pickleball, and they're listening to their members. So as I said a couple of times now, Hartland residents, including myself, are driving to Waukesha to play. Why can't we make that happen here in Hartland? Okay. So questions, comments on that at all?
I've got a question about the Nixon Park in Pembroke. When people go is it first come, first serve, or do they have to reserve a court?
Well, the way it's working right now is somebody brings a net, and there's usually so I'll just talk to my personal experience. I'm part of there's about 18 people that are in a text group, and we look at the weather and we say, hey, you want to play today? And we've got a couple of people that have nets, and we bring them, we set them up. So that's part of the group. And then depending on who shows up, sometimes we get people that pedal by on bikes or drive by in cars. Then if they want to play, they're certainly welcome to play. And what we always do, and I think this is just the nature of pickleball in general, typically you have 4 people playing at a time. And after you play a game, we switch out players and try to mix it up a little bit so that you're not always playing with the same people over and over again. It's a bit like the last bullet point there. It's a very social sport. It's competitive, but yet we try to have fun and just mix it up and have a good time. It's pretty common at Nixon, and I can speak to Waukesha firsthand. There's generally more people there than there are courts. So what happens is as people play games, they just switch in and out so everybody gets a chance to play. Okay. So did that answer your question?
Well, I was just curious, what had more interest right now, and it sounds to me like pickleball does. And tennis, I know, isn't for everybody. I mean, it's not an easy sport to play either. But I know pickleball, it just fits a lot more people. I've seen it myself. I've seen the growth. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I admit I'm somewhat biased. I've fallen in love with the game, and I really seek it out and find ways to play. But sure. I think it's fair to say that the amount of interest far outstrips the ability to play. Again, I've seen it. Waukesha, for example, at Banting as well as Lowell, they have 8 courts at each location, and on a nice sunny day or evening, there will be more people there than they have courts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any other questions before I chime in here?
Yeah, Jack, you said it's kind of a tough game to play.
Not pickleball, but tennis.
Oh, no, I meant pickleball. Okay, I misunderstood you then.
Yeah, it would be I would say the exact opposite. The attraction to pickleball is it's very easy to play, and
Yes.
it's again it has kind of a, I guess, a little bit of a bad rap because people talk about, well, it's an old person's game. Well, that's true to a certain extent. There's certainly a lot of people that are 50 plus playing it, but we get more and more young people playing it as well. It's just they haven't been exposed to it.
That'd be fine with me then, since I'm in that age group you're talking about.
Well, there you go.
Kelly, I do have a question you can answer. Obviously, I'm assuming our board members know this, but we do have recreational leagues that Kelly has set up. And Dave had mentioned earlier that the wait list and all that is going on. Can you tell us how many participants that you've had or that you currently have? Or whenever?
It depends on the season and how many courts we have available. For ball, we're inside at Hartland North. We have 2 courts, and we have about 15 is our limit for competitive. That is set by the coordinators. For social, we have a bigger enrollment number, maximum number. I think it was like up to 24 for fall because a lot of them don't come on a regular basis. Competitive seems to come more on a regular basis. In summer, we have, I think 20, 24 because we have 4 courts going on. So it's over 20 for sure. And then social, I think, is like 30 some because there's such a turnover.
Okay, very good. Obviously, you can see that it's becoming, like Dave has mentioned, it's becoming more and more popular. Which leads me to my next question is, and Mike, you can chime in on this. How many people have you seen, and obviously it's still young in the year yet, but how many people do you see using the Nixon courts or the Pembroke courts for actual tennis?
Well, I don't think we have very many people right now because of the quarantine restrictions. It's really hard to say.
I will tell you on Saturday, the tennis courts at Nixon were beyond packed. There was absolutely no way social distancing was in effect. And there was, as he just mentioned, there was plenty of gathering of people, obviously now that I know, waiting their turn. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Was that pickleball or was that pickleball or was that tennis?
Pickleball.
Well, believe
Yeah,
pickleball
it's
is actually, Governor Evers actually says pickleball is fine, so.
Yeah, right now at Nixon as well as Pembroke, there are no tennis courts up, tennis court nets up. So any activity you see on those courts are going to be probably pickleball.
Well, Mike, I guess I'm speaking, and Kelly too, I guess I'm speaking from the last time you can remember. Last year, it would probably be the best measurement tool. I mean, I know that I don't see as many, but I do see some occasionally playing.
That is correct.
I do know I used to have a Friday morning crowd, and I lost that about 2 years ago because Sussex and Sussex, let me think, Menominee Falls, Sussex, and we tried doing a pickleball super pass, and everybody ended up just wanting to play at Sussex and Menominee Falls, mainly Sussex because everybody was playing more at Sussex before I started getting indoor. And I also tried doing a morning pickleball, and I only had like 4 or 5 people coming if they actually came. Otherwise, it was never worth it for me to do it in the morning because Sussex and Menominee Falls offered theirs. We used to offer Sussex pickleball, and I'd have a few spots, but I stopped doing that as well. But then I started going towards the evening crowd, and that's where I got my numbers in summer because it wasn't just those who were available during the day, but it was also those who are working and want to come and play.
Yeah, I would also maybe say that part of what I've seen going on, I guess, in the last, 3 or 4 months is Wisconsin Athletic Club introducing pickleball to that crowd there. And as a result of that, I think a lot more people have gotten exposed to it. And I know for a fact there were people at that club that had never played it before and didn't know anything about it. But now what we see is when they set the nets up there, it's frankly, you gotta get there early. Otherwise you're going to be waiting around for a while because there's just so many people that want to play.
Dave, let me ask you another question then. At the WAC, are those, the pickleball courts, are they multi-use courts? I mean, are they on the tennis courts or are they actually by the?
They set them up on the basketball court. So
Okay.
there's room for 3 courts. And as I think I highlighted on the couple of slides ago, they usually set them up Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's over the noon hour for a couple of hours. And then on Tuesdays and Thursdays, they set it up from 8 to 10 for the early morning crowd. And like I said, very well attended. I tried to get some exact numbers from them, but unfortunately they're shut down right now, so they haven't been able to get me the numbers. But I can tell you, it's well attended.
Okay, Mike, have you seen the estimated costs of one of the sheets that was provided?
I have it here right with me.
What do you think about that? Give me your opinion on those costs.
Well, I do know that the village board looked at our tennis courts. We were going to resurface them last year,
Right.
and they thought it didn't warrant doing it at this time. They were still in good enough shape. So there's no money in the budget for 21 or 20 or 21.
Okay, what's the surface look like at Pembroke?
The same.
Okay.
We're going to do both.
And it's on the books for what year? 21 or 22?
I don't. No, it's not. It's not on
the
for
books.
2021. And I
Come on,
don't
Rick,
think
get 'em
it's
on the books.
at this point in the budget for 22.
Okay. Okay, so the estimates that I'm seeing here, it looks like it's from 10 to 15 grand. Is that an estimated cost for a new court or just a resurfacing?
I didn't hear you clearly. I'm getting a lot of echo.
Okay, for the estimated cost, anywhere from 9,500 to 4,500. Is that for a new court or a resurface?
So the way I put those numbers together, it would include the resurfacing as well as putting some new posts in with the nets and fencing. So if that would be kind of like, hey, let's build something and make it look like new sort of scenario. But if there is no money for resurfacing, I could easily see that cost coming down significantly, where maybe you just repaint the surface, put some lines down and put some new posts in, and that would come down significantly because the bulk of the cost here is resurfacing and painting of the courts.
Right.
Okay. The cost is, sorry. The cost is supporting 4 courts, right? Not just 1 court.
Four courts, correct. Yep. And if you look on the very last page there, it gives you a diagram roughly of what the layout looks like and the dimensions, et cetera, of how the courts are set up. And actually at the bottom of slide 5, there is a link to a pickleball construction guide that's got all the specs that anybody would need to make that happen. So it really depends on, number one, is there any appetite for doing it? And then how grandiose do we want to jump into it? Because again, it could be as simple as maybe repaint the surface just to make it look nice, and then put some posts up and we're off and running. But I looked at Pembroke, I looked at Nixon. We can argue about whether or not the surfaces need to be redone or not. I would tell you, quite frankly, given the people that I know that are interested in this. Aesthetics are secondary to just having some nets and lines painted, so we don't have to bring our own nets and things like that.
Dave, you mentioned that you have I thought you said a texting group or email group or elite group.
Yep.
I couldn't understand which one you had.
It's just a group of guys that have kind of gotten to know each other over the years, and we just text each other when we want to play.
What's the how many Hartland residents are there in that group?
Oh gosh. I honestly don't know. I can tell you they're all in and around Hartland. We don't. There's a couple people that are from Pewaukee. I don't know the answer to that, honestly.
Okay. I do see a possible future issue with this where, and Kelly, and that you guys, once the stay-at-home order is lifted and all that kind of stuff, I see that in order for you guys to play, you're going to have to reserve the court, which we do reservations, and I want to make sure that, if Kelly's going to have her rec program, obviously you have to work the scheduling conflicts out and all that type of thing. But especially if you have the court and there's two people playing tennis, I don't want you to come in there and say, hey, you guys get out of here. We're playing we're playing pickleball. But if you have it reserved, then you have all the reason to ask them to leave. So,
are you talking about the group that I play with on a regular basis?
Cool.
Well, anybody, anybody.
Yeah.
Any group.
Yeah,
Any
so
group, but-
I can tell you what'll happen once the COVID situation gets resolved. I can tell you the group that I play with, we're going to go to Waukesha. That's what we'll do because it's easier.
It's easier for you
to bring nets. We just show up, and I guess that's kind of my point is you've got people that live in and around this community, and it's not just the group that frankly that I play with. I know there's a lot of other people around here as well that would love to have access to it, but they just don't, so they go elsewhere.
Well, I mean, whether or not we had a full pickleball court here for you, you would still have to do the reservation process, whether or not. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
And
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't be an issue. In fact, I know for a fact, I think Waukesha does something similar where you pay an annual fee, some nominal fee. It's not a lot of money, but then you get priority over the courts as opposed to somebody like me that just shows up. And I'm not part of that, then sorry. We're paying money to use the courts and they get preference, which makes perfect sense.
Well, I mean, I would love to have full pickleball courts, to be quite honest with you, because I know it's an up and coming sport, and it's for anybody really. I mean, anybody can do it. It's like tennis, except you don't have to run as far.
Yeah,
it's fun. Want to run very fun. Yeah. So, Rick, I'm seeing you on the screen now. So we don't, obviously this is too much for the park budget. This would have to go to a capital improvement project.
Yeah. Now, my thing too is when he mentioned about, we can improvise and, just paint some lines and stuff, I don't know what's the differential in cost there. And if not, maybe get an updated estimate and give it to me or to the board here, and then I can present it, or get it to the village as well.
I was going to go ahead and if we want to utilize either one of the parks, Pembroke or Nixon, and reline the lines and all that kind of stuff, and kind of designate one pickleball and the other one tennis, or leave it open for tennis, I don't have a problem with that. But Dave just made a comment and said as soon as this COVID thing's over, he's going to Waukesha. So I'm not so sure that it's a pressing issue once this thing is over. So means that
again,
hold on a minute, which means that we can put it on the budget for 2 or 3 years and then do it the proper way.
Well, That's legit. I guess I just wanted to make it clear that if I had the option to stay in Hartland and pedal my bike over to Nixon Park, I would. I don't have that option right now.
Yeah.
So,
Now, that's what I thought. I thought you were saying you were gonna go to Waukesha, period.
no, it's just that we don't have any other option right now. And
If we made the multiple use though, Dave, would you stick around here then? If we made it multiple use for right now?
well, the kicker is this: we've got to buy nets. We've got to coordinate all of that effort. And again, the reason people don't do that is let's just go to Waukesha. It's all set up. It's all ready to go, and we don't have to deal with any of that stuff. So that's the big sticking point is it's all set up, ready to go. We don't have to worry about toting stuff or making sure that somebody brings a net today. Not everybody has nets, so we got to make sure somebody who has a net is actually willing to play today. It just makes things more. It's not insurmountable. If you want to play bad enough, you'll figure it out. But it just makes things a little bit easier when things are ready to go.
Will you stay?
Kelly, where do we keep our equipment for the pickleball recreational stuff?
We, the outside one is right next to the tennis court. There's a green box. My coordinators all have keys for that for when they play during the scheduled time, and they have keys, they unlock it, they get it out, everybody helps set up and take down.
Okay, so if Dave's group, for example, wanted to reserve the court for whatever time, can we have that box available to him where he can get to the nets and then have somebody come back and when they're done, put the nets back in the box and then close it back up or whatever? It's something similar like Lake Country's doing with their baseball?
It's easier if somebody has like a key for it to do it because then staff has to do it. I set up pickleball on Fridays when I used to have that Friday leagues, and it was hard for me to be able to get there all the time, even with a reserved time. So
Yeah.
I would just ask one of them to swing by, pick up the key from the office, and just lock it up and drop it off. If they're fine with that, I'd prefer that because in the office we're there 7:30 to 4:30. So.
But I would think if we're giving them access to the box and the key, that would need to be a reserved situation.
Yeah. If I
Right,
knew he was
exactly.
coming every Friday morning, 9 to 11, I would just have a key ready for him, and here's the key,
Well, that would be good because then if someone comes to use it the next day and the net's gone, then obviously the last person that used it is responsible for the replenishment of the net. So I mean, I can understand that. I guess what I'd like to see in the meantime, and I think more cost study needs to be done to actually do a pickleball court. I mean, I have some suggestions on where we want to put it. And we do have some room, and I'm sure I'm going to get shot down with where I want to put it. But I think in the meantime, I think if we can look at the cost difference in, like Rick had mentioned, the relining and all that type of thing, and reduce the cost, maybe we can do something yet this summer. And then have the new court, so to speak, happening down the road when we put it in capital improvements and do it right. So that's what I'd be kind of thinking of right now anyway.
Good.
Kelly,
sure.
can I ask you a question? On Saturday morning, this past Saturday morning, was that your activity? No.
No.
No,
It was probably Dave.
I probably knew half of them, but
I can tell you it was the group that I play with.
I probably know half of them.
Yeah.
So my point is there was a huge crowd there, and they were playing. They looked like they had more than, one court. So I understand both sides of it, but I do also, this is a lot of money that we don't have. So it is going to have to be planfully done.
I understand that completely, and I didn't expect you necessarily to say, yeah, let's do it tomorrow, sort of thing. I told Kelly that the goal for me was just to get the conversation started and see the level of interest, and let you guys know that there's definitely interest in pickleball within the Hartland community, and I would even argue that if we make access to it easy, it'll even grow from there, because I'm fortunate that I belong to a couple of clubs that, Wisconsin Athletic Club that has nets and we can play. But there's probably a good chunk of the people that here in Hartland that don't have access to that and would love to be able to play, and they don't have it. So it's just to get the ball started and get you guys thinking about it, and realize that if you build it, I think, well, I know they'll get used.
Any other comments or questions or concerns for Dave or anyone?
Just the cost.
Well, and I think we'll address that. Mike, are you still here?
Hold on, he's on mute.
Okay.
All right,
Yes, I
Mike.
am, Tim.
Mike, I think if you could maybe bring to the board next month or whenever you get the costs of maybe a full pickleball court, which would, Dave, I'm assuming four courts would be one court. Or,
Yeah, well, the thought there is there's currently space for 2 tennis courts there, and if you look at that diagram on page 6, you can fit 4 pickleball courts in the space of 2 tennis courts. So that's the rationale there, and I think 4 would be a great place to start.
okay, so if we could get maybe a cost study on a brand new one, at number 1, number 2, realignment of either Pembroke or Nixon as number 2, and then number 3, just a resurfacing and repainting of lines so that we can make it multi-use. So that would be 3 different options that we have. And then we have, 3 different choices, and obviously the one choice would obviously be pushed off for a couple of years, but at least we know what we're talking about when it comes to that. How does that sound?
I can do that.
Okay.
And I also think I like that idea because obviously if we can get it temporary, you can kind of see the activity, and that might help justify the cost of doing it the right way, a couple years down the road.
Well, I agree. I mean, hey, Waukesha's great, but we got a lot to offer here in Hartland, and I'd hate to see them.
Exactly.
We don't know how many Hartland residents are leaving, but I would like to see them use our parks as well. So I think
Agreed.
that'd be the way to go. So do I entertain a motion with what I just got done saying? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if we're making a consideration on the pickleball courts. I guess we're kind of starting it forward, I guess, with what the agenda item says, but.
I don't think we're really making a consideration at this point. We have very little information and 0 budget.
Okay.
So I think we can certainly take information for next year's budget, or, but I don't know that we can make a motion on anything.
Mike, can will you be able to get it for next month, Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll contact some resurfacing companies and talk to them.
Okay, so then what I'll do is I'm going to make a motion to table this for a month so that we have to talk about it next month. That's tabling. So I'll make a motion to table it, and then we'll have the numbers that we can go through that Mike's going to get, and then we can go from there.
On this May 4th Park Board meeting, I second that motion.
All right, that's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion from anyone? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Very good. Thank you, Dave.
Hey,
All
Dave.
right, thank you. All right.
Dave,
Thank you.
before you go, can I ask you, what's that picture? Is that a picture behind you, that golf course?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yes.
I wasn't sure if you were sitting out on a golf course right now or not.
Well, I wish I was, but it's kind of like when it's cold and cloudy out, I like to fantasize about being on a golf course.
Okay, thanks.
Very good.
All right, see ya. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, next up, other items for consideration. Any announcement? Does anybody have anything?
I do. You guys should have received a memo from me in regards to what we are doing with the park usage. I gave you guys an update. Are there any questions in regards to that?
I do have a question. That will be updated after the 25th or after we hear something different from the governor. Is that correct?
Yeah, they'll be updated to what I'm not sure, but that's the goal.
Okay, and thank you for that, because I asked you to put that in there.
Yeah, that's no problem. Absolutely. We'll keep you updated. Also from the rec side, the program guide didn't get mailed out. We're hoping to hold some classes. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I'm kind of...
Kelly, can I interrupt? I'm sorry. Could everybody just put, when somebody else is talking, put your mute on? There's a ton of background noise. So that may help, and then we can hear you better.
Yeah. It's an echo, actually, so if you turn the volume a little bit, it might help.
Okay. Everybody's...
Go ahead, Kel.
All right. The program guide did go out. We're asking that everybody puts their register for like the waiting list. We're not taking money just because it costs the village money to refund everybody. And every time there's a transaction with cash or some type of form of money, ActiveNet does charge us for that. So we thought put it on wait list. That way, if a program is canceled, or either way, canceled or being held, I will reach out to the people that are on the wait list and ask them, this is how you register, or hey, we're going to have to cancel due to the guidelines not meeting, or we can't meet the criteria of the guidelines of the state. All our programs will be based on whatever the state guidelines are set. We are still going to try to go ahead for camp as well. That's our biggest program during the summer. That might look different. We're throwing around all the ideas. If we have a 1-to-5 ratio, what's that going to look like? If we have a 1-to-10, what's that going to look like? We might, the rumor has it, we can't even get into the schools until July 1st. All through June 30th, that's considered a school year. So right now we're not able to even use the school. So we might have the kids scattered around the parks, a group under each shelter at Nixon or something. We're just unknown. I have been sitting on Zoom meetings at noon with Wisconsin Park and Recreation Association. That association has a lobbyist that sent a letter to the governor stating what we need to know as rec departments, like what's your criteria for camps, what's your criteria for aquatics, pools, splash pads. We need to know all this stuff in order to move forward. So hopefully the next time he sends out an update or a new set of guidelines, he has more information for us, or he's at least saying, okay, I'm going into phase 1, or, this is when phase 2 might be happening. So we're just sitting here waiting to see what is going on his end. Also, starting May 1st, we started putting our punch card fitness classes online. Our first yoga class that was held this morning had 23 participants. Some of my instructors were doing this in April and March and April, but they were doing it for free. And I said, okay, now let's start charging because this is an income for some of them. 23 Carrie Duma's yoga classes at 9 o'clock. We had 23. Mary Yoga for Life, she said since she's been doing Zoom classes, she's been getting about 24 per class. I asked them to keep tally of how many they are getting so we can see how successful this is, because one question I ask is, if we do get back to normalcy, do we still offer these for those who are, have to go to a meeting or work later, they can't get to the class, can they jump in on Zoom and be there? So, but it also shows that our participants are loyal and they like our instructors, and I'm sure they missed the the camaraderie, the social aspect of the classes and stuff. So, all right, I think that's it on my end. Oh, 2 announcements. Dwayne and Tina, whenever you can you stop by the office to sign your oath? Because you've been reelected.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right, I'm done now.
Back in.
Any questions?
Mike, do you have anything?
Yes, I do have 2 items. One, I would just caution against spending monies that we don't have budgeted at this point because of the corona or COVID-19 situation. We are losing revenue. The village is losing revenue from lost rentals of shelters and open spaces. So we're going to be looking at that at the administration level to see what kind of impact that may have on our budgets. Secondly, Public Works is down another staff member. The fire chief retired, Dave Dean retired, and Dave Jambritz was made the interim fire chief. So we now have one less employee for Public Works at this time.
Fire
That's
chief
all.
is a full-time job?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
I did not realize that. Wonder what he does.
We actually have 2 full-time, don't we?
Really?
There may even be more than that. I'm not familiar with their structure.
Yeah.
I didn't know there was enough to do every day, all day. That's interesting.
Mike, I saw the signs up. Have we had much in the way of applicants
For what?
for the positions that are available with DPW?
They are not being advertised.
Oh, there
and
was a sign up.
those were for summer help, and we have our summer help staff. But because Dave Dean is an interim position, we have to hold that position in the eventuality that he may not be appointed the full-time chief.
In which case would he be moved back into DPW then?
Yes.
Oh,
If they hire a full-time chief, he would be moved back to Public Works.
okay, so you're going to leave that open until that decision has been made.
6 months to a year
Okay. Well, it looks like you're going
is
to lose.
what I'm hearing.
Looks like you're going to lose a little weight doing a little work then.
I am. I'll be out on a mower.
Or
Okay.
we look for an interim DPW person.
That has been discussed. A temp.
Okay. Any other items? I do have one. In fact, you should have brought this up. The Hartland or the Hartbrook Park bridge has been replaced. Go ahead.
Repaired.
The boards were replaced.
Correct. Well, they were put on top.
Yes, and that should give us another couple of years of life, but just for the park board's information, that bridge is going to have to be replaced within, speaking of not spending any extra money, that bridge is going to have to be replaced probably within the next 3-4 years. So.
And that will be a costly replace because we have to do the buttresses, and rough estimates were 100 to 150,000.
Yeah.
So speaking of not spending more money, I happened to notice the pond at Nixon. Mike, is there, there was a lot of sediment by the bridge, by the first path in the water. Have you looked at it? Have you noticed it?
Absolutely. And that's on schedule to be dredged this fall.
Oh, good.
Right now, there are some issues with the DNR, so we're working through a permitting process.
Okay.
And
I couldn't remember what it was in the budget for dredging, but it was looking pretty bad. All right. Can we get an update on that at the next meeting? Just if you've got anything?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Has it been determined as far as where we're going to place that sediment if and when that happens?
The discussion is to place it along the railroad tracks,
Okay,
south of the drives,
yes.
south of the bathroom.
Yeah, that's where I thought was the best location for it. And,
Yeah, fill in the low spot and build a berm.
yeah, and fill it in with the rest of the members why we have to put it. How many yards or what's the distances that we have to keep it within?
Well, we have to keep it in the park, on the park property.
Yeah.
And that's a DNR requirement. I mean, we could take it off site, but it's very expensive.
Sure.
So the plan is to try and keep it on site and restore it.
Okay. Yeah, that was my area that I thought where we could put it would be the least amount of issue over there. So, okay. Anybody else have any announcements or anything? Then I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
That's what I thought I did earlier.
Well, how about a second? If you want to.
I'll second it.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded for adjournment. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. I think it worked out pretty well today.